point, so I'll keep things simple. I've got a few yes or no questions. Should Americans have access to medical care, yes or no?
Yes.
Well, that's great that we're in agreement, because if you cared about the sick, you wouldn't be forcing states to make impossible decisions about who will feel the pain of Trump and Republicans' cruel health.
Yes, and they are.
Look, I would believe you if your shutdown strategy didn't put 144,000 Rhode Islanders at risk of going hungry.
Our shutdown strategy?
Yes, your shutdown.
Really?
Yes, because, sir,
Who's the one who voted against those bills?
Sir, do you disagree with President Trump then? Because that's a quote from President Trump. You don't care about the 1.4 million Americans who missed a paycheck during Trump's shutdown last year. You want public servants, as you've said, to be viewed as you're hearing from our side. Our constituents are paying the price. Yet, you put forward a budget that grows, but cuts again at the things that help the American people. So I hope you have time to reflect on that.
South Carolina, and you have 5 minutes to my friend, Mr. Amo from Rhode Island.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for holding this much-needed oversight hearing. Director, I'm sure you know you've got a lot of nicknames, things like Grim Reaper, but I'm not here to call you names. I am here to call you out on the pain that you've inflicted on Rhode Islanders and Americans who are fed up. And I want to get to the point, so I'll keep things simple. I've got a few yes or no questions. Should Americans have access to medical care, yes or no?
Yes.
Well, that's great that we're in agreement, because if you cared about the sick, you wouldn't be forcing states to make impossible decisions about who will feel the pain of Trump and Republicans' cruel health care cuts from that big, ugly law. So bad that you keep renaming it. You've rebranded it about 3 times now. Kids with disabilities, cancer patients, seniors, who do you think should feel the pain? You have forced Rhode Island to make impossible decisions about who should suffer. You want us to believe that we can't afford to help my sick constituents. But you claim it's smart budgeting to request $1.5 trillion in defense funding for a department that already has more money than they know what to do with to fight illegal wars. I've got another question for you. Should hungry children be fed, yes or no?
Yes, and they are.
Look, I would believe you if your shutdown strategy didn't put 144,000 Rhode Islanders at risk of going hungry.
Our shutdown strategy?
Yes, your shutdown.
Really?
Yes, because, sir,
who's the one who voted against those bills?
Sir, you have had a position where you have seen shutdowns as ways to break federal workers, as ways to hurt the American people. I'm reclaiming my time.
You caused that shutdown.
I'm reclaiming my time, sir. Was $6 a day too generous for you? Look, from Woonsocket to Providence, in the 1st Congressional District of Rhode Island, I visited food banks, and I've seen the struggle to keep up with rising demand from hungry Rhode Islanders, and that's thanks to your cruelty. Look, I have seen your actions, and I want you to take time with this particular question, because you brought up it being our shutdown. Do you think a lot of good comes from government shutdowns, yes or no?
No.
Well,
what you're seeing here is a tightly controlled pressure moment. The questioning starts simple, basic yes or no moral premises. Should people have health care? Should children be fed? And each yes locks in a public position. But immediately after, those answers are used against the witness, exposing a gap between stated values and alleged actions. That's the core tension driving this exchange. Notice how the tone shifts from questioning to accusation. The focus is no longer policy details, but credibility. If the answers are yes, then the follow-up becomes unavoidable. Why do the outcomes described look so different? That's the contradiction the audience is meant to sit with.
Do you disagree with President Trump then? Because that's a quote from President Trump. You don't care about the 1.4 million Americans who missed a paycheck during Trump's shutdown last year. You want public servants, as you've said, to be viewed as villains. From air traffic controllers to naval officers to VA employees. I heard constituents harmed by your shutdown. There is nothing good about that. It's damaging to real people, sir.
You caused it. You voted for it.
Look,
you were the person that, with all of your votes,
Mr. Vote, just like you did with Doge, you think that good things come from breaking people. You have said it's fine to break things and pick up the pieces later. I didn't make up these words. Those are your words. That has no regard to Rhode Islanders who are still trying to put their lives together, people around this country who are still trying to put their lives together. If you don't know your own words, how can you show up here to speak? Look, I'm going to wrap up because I don't want to afford you more time to tell more lies to the American people. You don't get to override Congress because you disagree with how funds are spent. You don't get to force government shutdowns to break people. Your decisions have done nothing but hurt my constituents. They don't need Washington bureaucrats like you making funding decisions that upend their lives. And you've said a lot of things today. I've watched some of your participation from my office. I saw some of it here. And your actions reveal the truth despite your words. When given the choice, you have chosen cruelty and chaos over billionaires over and over and over again. Billionaires, cruelty, chaos. You attacked healthcare. You put food for hungry kids at risk. You ignored Congress. You jacked up prices. The American people are fed up. Read every poll. And you embrace shutdowns that hurt working people. So at its core, sir, I don't think you value the American people. Your disregard for their lives is creating a great amount of pain. And as you're hearing from our side, our constituents are paying the price. Yet you put forward a budget that grows, but cuts again at the things that help the American people. So I hope you have time to reflect on that and the pain that you're inflicting on constituents around this country. I yield back.
Gentleman yields.
This exchange is less about policy specifics and more about moral framing. And that's exactly why it lands with such intensity. From the very beginning, the strategy is clear. Strip the debate down to its most basic human questions. Healthcare, hunger, paychecks. These aren't abstract budget lines. They're framed as direct impacts on real people. And once those yes answers are on record, the entire argument pivots to a single, powerful claim. There's a disconnect between what's being said and what's being done. What makes this moment especially compelling is how control of the conversation is maintained. The repeated reclaiming my time isn't just procedural, it's strategic. It prevents deviation, keeps the narrative focused, and ensures that the framing doesn't slip. The witness isn't given room to recontextualize or soften the accusations. Instead, the structure forces a one-directional flow, assertion after assertion, building a cumulative case. But the real turning point comes when the conversation shifts from individual decisions to broader intent. It's no longer just about specific votes or actions. It becomes about a governing philosophy. The language escalates, breaking people, cruelty, chaos. Whether one agrees with that characterization or not, it's a deliberate move to redefine the stakes. This isn't presented as a disagreement over policy priorities. It's framed as a fundamental difference in values. There's also a calculated use of scale. The argument moves from Rhode Islanders to 1.4 million Americans, from local food banks to nationwide shutdown impacts. That expansion matters because it transforms a localized grievance into a national indictment. It invites viewers to see this not as an isolated issue, but as part of a broader pattern. At the same time, the repeated references to shutdowns serve as a central anchor. Shutdowns are politically loaded because they have visible, immediate consequences: missed paychecks, halted services, public disruption. By tying those outcomes directly to decision-making, the speaker is attempting to draw a straight line between policy choices and human cost. And when that line is drawn clearly enough, it becomes emotionally powerful, especially for viewers who may have felt those impacts firsthand. What's equally important is what's not happening here. There's very little technical debate, no deep dive into budget mechanics or legislative nuance. That's intentional. This is designed for clarity and impact, not complexity. It's about shaping perception, not negotiating details. In the end, the takeaway for viewers is meant to be simple but strong. If leaders say they care about people, their decisions should reflect that. And if there's a perceived gap, that gap becomes the story. That's the central tension this entire exchange is built around, and it's what makes it resonate beyond the room where it happened. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think this line of questioning effectively exposed a real contradiction, or was it more about political framing than substance? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you found this breakdown useful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth analysis like this.